In the village of Naioni, where the baobab trees whispered to the wind and the rivers ran with secrets older than the soil, there lived a woman named Nambile. Her skin shimmered like polished ebony under the sun, and her presence carried the elegance of a queen. Yet, there was one thing that set her apart: no mirror had ever held her reflection. Even as a child, elders noticed it. "Ehe," they whispered, "when Nambile walks by the river, the water stirs, but no face stares back." At first, they thought it was just child's talk. A trick of light. A shadow misplaced. But as she grew, the truth became undeniable. Nambile did not fear mirrors, she despised them. In her heart, not a single reflective surface was allowed. She had all the mirrors removed the day she turned 16. "A mirror is a liar," she once told her aunt. "It shows only what the eyes can see, but hides what the soul truly carries." People wondered, but no one dared question her directly. Nambile had a way of looking at you that made you forget your thoughts mid-sentence. And though she was kind and graceful, there was something about her, something that left the hair on the back of your neck rising when you looked too long. She was the village's finest seamstress. Young women traveled from neighboring lands just to have her stitch their wedding gowns. Her fingers moved like magic, needle dancing through fabric like a bird gliding on wind. But despite her success, Nambile never married. Some said she had been cursed. Others believed she was born under the wrong moon. But no one truly knew why Nambile avoided mirrors, or why she looked so pained when others did not. One day, a stranger came to Naioni. A tall woman in a long, cobalt robe, her head wrapped in golden thread. Her name was Nambile, and she carried with her a bundle wrapped in goat hide. She approached Nambile's hut just as the sun began its descent. "I heard you craft dresses finer than any in these lands," Nambile said. "I do," Nambile replied, "but only for those who carry clean spirits." The stranger smiled. "Then I believe I'm worthy." Nambile led her into the hut. The two women sat beside the hearth, a pot of redbush tea simmering between them. As they sipped, Nambile unwrapped her bundle and revealed a strange, circular mirror. Its frame was bone white, carved with symbols that twisted and curved like roots in the earth. It glowed faintly, even in the dimness of the room. Nambile's breath caught. "I did not ask for a mirror," she said, her voice sharp. Nambile's eyes narrowed. "This mirror," she whispered, "does not reflect your face. It reflects your truth." Nambile stood abruptly. "Leave. Now." But Nambile only smiled and placed the mirror on the ground. "You can keep the robe," she said softly. "You'll need it soon." With that, the stranger vanished into the evening fog, leaving the mirror behind. That night, Nambile sat in silence, staring at the object she had spent her life avoiding. Something about it called to her. Not with fear, but with familiarity. It was as though a piece of her had been trapped inside it, waiting. As the fire crackled low, her eyes could not resist. She crawled to the mirror and, with trembling hands, lifted it. At first, nothing. Just a dark void. Then, slowly, something began to form. It was her face, but not as she knew it. This Nambile had wild, matted hair and sunken eyes. Her skin looked drained, stretched thin. Her smile was twisted, too wide, like a mask worn too long. Nambile dropped the mirror with a gasp, but it didn't shatter. The room grew cold. The candles flickered though no wind entered. Then, a voice whispered, not aloud, but from within the walls of her soul. "You have hidden me long enough." She stumbled back, heart pounding. "No," she whispered. "That is not me." But the truth settled heavy in the room. The reflection was not a ghost, nor a trick. It was her, what she had buried. Long ago, before her fame as a seamstress, before she sealed every mirror and shunned her own face, Nambile had done something terrible. She had betrayed her own blood. The memory returned now, unwanted and bitter. As a child, Nambile had a twin sister, Nalia. Where Nambile was composed, Nolia was wild, full of laughter and storms. They were inseparable until the day of the eclipse. There had been a fire. A hut reduced to ashes. Nolia had run in to save their grandmother's sacred cloth, the family heirloom. But only one girl emerged from the flames. And that girl was not Nolia. It was Nambile, or so she said. The villagers mourned Nolia. But whispers followed. Some said they had seen Nolia exit the fire first, only to be pulled back in. Others said the girl who survived had changed, her voice quieter, her eyes more distant. In truth, Nambile had pushed her sister back into the flames to save herself. The guilt had eaten her from the inside ever since. Every mirror reminded her of what she had done. Not by showing Nolia's face, but by refusing to show her own. Because her soul no longer belonged fully to her. That was why her reflection never came. The mirror now showed both of them, Nambile and Nolia. One in flesh, the other in spirit. One alive, the other waiting. Nambile screamed and hurled the mirror into the corner of the hut. But it did not break. Instead, it glowed brighter. From its surface, a whisper curled into the air. "You will make it right, or I will." The next morning, the villagers found Nambile's hut closed. No smoke from the hearth. No sign of her at the market. When they knocked, there was no answer. Inside, Nambile sat before the mirror, her eyes hollow, her fingers twitching. She knew what she had to do. To make it right, she would have to return to the place of betrayal. To the ashes that still held her sister's scream. To the river where the spirit waited. She wrapped herself in the cobalt robe Nambile had left. It shimmered with strange light, and on its hem were the same markings that adorned the mirror's frame. As she stepped outside, the wind whispered her name. Nambile did not flinch. The journey had begun. The path to the river was overgrown, as if nature itself had tried to bury the past. Branches clawed at Nambile's robe as she walked, and the earth beneath her feet felt soft and unsteady, like walking over forgotten graves. The cobalt fabric shimmered with every step, and though the morning sun beat down from above, she felt cold, like something walked beside her. She didn't look back. The river was far beyond the village, past the thick groves of marula trees and the ancestral stones carved by hands long gone. Few dared venture there anymore. It was said the spirits that lived in the river had grown restless. Women who had tried to wash their garments there returned with tears in their eyes, unable to speak of what they saw. But Nambile knew. The river was sacred. It remembered everything. As she reached the clearing, the world grew silent. No birds. No rustle of leaves. Only the slow, endless flow of the water ahead, dark and glass-like. The river reflected the sky and trees, but not Nambile. Just as always. She stood at the edge, her bare feet sinking slightly into the mud. A memory surged, crashing through her like a wave. That day. The fire. Nolia's scream. The smell of smoke and burning wood. She remembered the panic. The terror. And then the choice. She had reached for Nolia's hand as they ran through the flames, but when Nolia stumbled, Nambile let go. Just for a second. But in that second, the beam fell. The fire swallowed her sister. Nambile never told anyone. She claimed Nolia had gone in alone. She had worn her sister's favorite bracelet to the funeral. And every mirror she had ever avoided since was a silent witness to that lie. The water stirred. Then, rising from the center of the river, a figure began to take shape. First the head, then the shoulders. Hair like river weed, eyes pale as moonlight, skin that shimmered like obsidian beneath the surface. It was Nolia. Not as she had been, but as the river remembered her. Beautiful, otherworldly, and sorrowful. She didn't speak. She simply stared at Nambile, the water swirling gently around her. I've come to make it right, Nambile whispered, tears tracing her cheeks. But the spirit didn't move. I was young. Afraid. I didn't mean to. The river rippled violently. A sharp wind cut through the clearing. The trees groaned. Nambile fell to her knees. Please, she cried. Tell me what to do. At last, Nalia's lips parted. You must remember me. Fully. Without excuses. Without covering the truth. Nambile reached into the pocket of the robe and pulled out the bone-framed mirror. It pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. She held it up toward her sister's spirit. And for the first time, it reflected them both. Side by side. One living. One long gone. Nambile looked down into the glass. Her eyes were hers, but darker now, sunken with grief. She saw the part of herself she'd buried, the selfishness, the fear, the betrayal. And she saw the part she'd stolen, the life Nalia should have lived, the laughter that had died in the fire. And behind all of that, the pain. A deep, ancestral pain. One passed from mother to daughter, sister to sister. A pain that began generations ago, when choices were made out of desperation and survival. The mirror showed it all. And then, slowly, it began to change. The reflection shifted, not into something terrifying, but into something honest. Nambile saw herself, but this time whole. Eyes filled with sorrow, but no longer hiding. She saw Nalia, not angry, but waiting. I see you, Nambile said softly. I see what I did. I won't hide you anymore. The spirit stepped closer, until her hands were just above the water's surface. Then you must give me back what was taken. Nambile's heart clenched. How? The spirit pointed to the robe. This is not yours. It belongs to those who see truth. Not those who bury it. With trembling hands, Nambile removed the cobalt robe. At once, the warmth it had given her vanished, replaced by a chill that sank deep into her bones. The spirit reached forward and touched the fabric. It dissolved into mist, rising into the air like smoke. Then the spirit looked at her again, this time with something almost like a smile. You must tell the village, she whispered. Let the truth walk where the lie once stood. Nambile nodded, though fear twisted in her stomach. She had hidden her crime for 20 years. What would they do when they learned the truth? But something inside her felt lighter. The river shimmered once more. And then, Nalia was gone. The water stilled. The sun broke through the clouds. And for the first time in her life, Nambile saw her reflection ripple in the surface below. The walk back to the village felt longer than before. Each step was heavy, like walking through years of buried guilt. When she reached the edge of Naoni, the children playing by the baobab tree paused. They stared. Something in her had changed, and they felt it. Nambile didn't return to her hut. She walked straight to the village circle, where elders sat weaving mats and gossiping about the weather. She stood before them, her voice trembling. I have a truth to tell. They fell silent. And so she spoke. She told them everything, the fire, the mirror, the betrayal. She did not try to excuse it. She spoke only what was, and what had been hidden. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some wept. Others stared in disbelief. When she finished, the silence was thick. Then, from among the crowd, an old woman rose. Her back was bent with age, her face lined with time. It was Mama Ijo, the oldest woman in Naoni, keeper of the sacred stories. She looked at Nambile and nodded slowly. The river always remembers, she said. But so must we. Truth, or once spoken, is a kind of cleansing. Then she raised her hand. From this day, the memory of Nalia will live. Not as a spirit forgotten, but as a sister returned. The villagers murmured in agreement. And though some still looked at Nambile with fear, others saw the courage it had taken to stand before them, to speak what most would bury. That night, they lit a fire by the river. They sang songs for the departed and cast petals into the water. And when the wind moved across the surface, it whispered not with anger, but with peace. Back in her heart, Nambile uncovered the last mirror she had hidden, one she had buried beneath the floorboards years ago. She held it to her face. Her reflection looked back. This time, it didn't turn away. The next week, the villagers gathered at the stone circle for a ceremony not seen in generations, the reckoning of the glass. Each family brought their mirrors. Some were cracked, some dusty, some so ancient they barely reflected light. One by one, they were uncovered. The elders sang the song of the mirror keepers, a haunting melody carried by the wind. Nambile stood at the center, dressed in white this time, her hair unbound. As the sun reached its highest point, they lifted the mirrors toward the sky. And for a brief, sacred moment, the village saw itself. Its scars, its beauty, its buried truths, and its hope. That night, as the stars shimmered over Naomi, Nambile returned to her heart. She lit a single candle and sat before her last mirror. It was no longer covered. Her reflection looked back at her. It didn't flinch. It didn't hide. It simply was. She whispered into the silence, "I see you." And for the first time in her life, the mirror whispered back, "I see you too." Make sure to like the video and subscribe as the stories are just about to get even better.